Yeah. Is that going to be, you think it's sufficient enough?
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the December meeting of the LSU Faculty Senate. As a reminder, this is a makeup meeting. We don't typically have one in December because it's only 2 weeks after our November meeting. But nonetheless, due to natural disasters that are far beyond our control, here we find ourselves in a makeup meeting. It certainly feels like December, doesn't it? If for no other reason than because of the overactive air pollution system. All right, so masks are not required. However, they are encouraged, especially given the current status of the new COVID variant. Before we go too far, the tragedy of the last few years has left a mark on all of us. We've lost friends, colleagues, and loved ones. So I'd like a moment of silence for that. All right, thank you. All right, as we find ourselves, as you can see, we find ourselves in yet another new venue. Because like the traveling troubadours of old, including Barnes and Daly Circus, we have no designated space for our faculty senate or for our LSU faculty to meet. Therefore, we pull up stakes and off we go around the campus countryside. So we ask your patience as we literally have to recreate the wheel for each and every meeting. So please, if there's a little pause, please recognize that we're trying to pull everything together necessary for the meeting. This is no small task. Additionally, it's been brought to my attention that this is exacerbated by abrupt changes in the agenda. So, my friends, I ask that we stick to the agenda, barring any extreme extenuating circumstances. This will help keep things queued up as we have them, both for our slides, for the speakers, and the electronic voting. None of this would have been possible without Ms. Knoll, who, by the way, has a doctorate from our own School of Music and Dramatic Arts. And I would be remiss not to mention her presence, her support of each and every one of our meetings. Now, as you can see, we have got a new fangled sound system. So I'd like a volunteer, someone to volunteer to run between faculty senators. It's a great way to meet all your friends, associate names with faces and so on. So do I have a volunteer microphone runner? Yeah. All right. All right, very good, thank you. All right, next up, a few points of order. Most of you know the drill by now. Please confirm your attendance, as you can see on the screen behind me, by emailing your name and whether you are a senator, faculty member, or guest to that email. All right, all senators in person and Zoom must raise their hand to be acknowledged before speaking. Be sure to identify yourself and your college when you're called upon to speak. Guests that are full-time members of the faculty can participate in discussions on agenda items, according to our Constitution. However, I request that everyone respect the right of everyone to speak. So try to limit the comments to 2 to 3 minutes and recognize or respect the person who has the floor. Again, always identify yourself and your college, please. All right, we must stay on topic, on time, and in motion because we have a hard and controversial stop at 5:30. Many of us would like to end the meeting before then, and so this should also be considered when it's brought to our attention. All right, now I've been asked to cover a few options available that help keep things moving along. One is to call the question. That is, if the question is called, that is on a specific agenda item or a resolution, and seconded, a vote is taken to vote whether or not to vote on the resolution under discussion. And if the majority vote in favor, the resolution is voted upon immediately without debate. Next, motions can be made to postpone resolutions already under discussion. That is, having already had the first reading. Resolutions can be postponed indefinitely or to a specific date. So, finally, topics can be tabled at any point in the meeting. This is typically to take up the item later in the meeting. All right, finally, there's an option to refer a resolution to committee. It again requires a motion, a second, and a vote. So we have been allowing that postponed resolutions to be postponed incorrectly. After the first reading, the resolution becomes the property of the faculty senate. Therefore, a motion, a second, and a vote has to be taken to postpone it. All right, voting. Links will be sent to your emails, though I believe we'll also have an option to use the QRS code. Friends, this is to be clear. We have implemented this as required by Louisiana Public Meetings laws to record all votes and to expedite the process of a roll call. However, it takes a few minutes. So please be patient. Remember, one vote per senator, and senators always, only, and we will confirm all votes. All right. Finally, Mr. Trey Jones from the General Counsel's Office is here with us today. He will provide legal advice on our meeting activities when asked to do so. We are not experts, most of us are not experts in parliamentary procedure, and we've entered in some uncharted territory. So you will see a letter from Scott Sternberg on behalf of the Rotary. And whenever there is any potential threat of litigation toward faculty in their role as LSU employees, the General Counsel's Office must be advised and kept aware of the situation. So we will share that letter with you right immediately after. All right, we appreciate him taking time out of his very busy schedule on our behalf. All right, well, with that very long prelude, let's get started. All right, announcement of alternate representatives. Ferdinand Agazadeh for Louis Mohammed, Edward Shahada for Chantal Chauvin, Michelle Massé for Helen Regis, Fabio Del Piero for Adrian Navata, and Gundel Hoffman for Mark Wagner. Is there any other alternates? All right, hearing none, move on. Okay, I've already talked about the goals. All right, and now we have, do we have any public comments, Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Knoll will call the public comments. Please step forward, use the microphone, and there's a hard stop at 3 minutes for each public comment.
Thank you very much. First public comment is Professor James Foster on resolution 21-11. And there's some open seats towards the front.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. I do not presume to be particularly knowledgeable about the rules and procedures of the faculty senate. I have absolutely no interest in intervening in internal disputes of the faculty senate. I am here today because I am particularly concerned about Senate Resolution 2111, which I think has the potential to undermine the authority of the faculty senate. Two things trouble me about this resolution. First, you will be voting on an anonymous resolution. My experience here has convinced me that the LSU faculty are adamantly committed to openness and procedure. I believe an anonymous resolution undermines both of those. Second, the resolution calls for an investigation of the members of the Senate and gives the authority to appoint a committee to do that to the president in person. If an investigation is necessary, it should be conducted by the faculty senate. If the administration and the faculty are going to respect and listen to the decisions and the debates by the faculty senate, it is absolutely imperative that those debates be open and that the faculty senate govern itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next public comment is Cecilia Shanks on resolution 21-06. Yeah, she can come up here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cecilia Shanks. I'm a first-year student, dual degree in International Trade and Finance and French. And I'm here to shed light on the hypocrisies between words stated and actions taken. As the flagship institution of the state, the Division of Louisiana State University is a leading research-extensive university, challenging undergraduate and graduate students to achieve the highest levels of intellectual and personal development. LSU is very ambitious. If LSU's goal is truly to challenge the student body to achieve the highest levels of intellectual and personal development, then why would you, the faculty members, whose profession requires the embodiment of this vision, petition to rob the student members of this great university of their intellectual, personal decisions? Why should we, the undergraduates and graduates, be robbed of our free thought and way to choose, both of which are the only way personal development can be achieved? I've heard more about how astoundingly diverse my freshman class is and the grand progress we are making in the impending heist of choice. Well, I ask you, where's the diversity of thought? There's diversity on the matter is about the color of one's skin and not the content of one's character. Furthermore, the student code of conduct, a rather tedious document that all students are told to read, yet not expected to, defines in portion 10.2 behavioral misconduct. Section A, that coercive behavior is an act by an individual or group that has an explicit or implicit condition for initiation into, admission into, affiliation with, or continued membership in a group or organization, regardless of consent, which tends to or which is intended to demean, disgrace, humiliate, or degrade a student, which includes but not limited to forced conduct that could result in extreme embarrassment or other forced activity that could adversely affect the mental health or dignity of a student. I believe we're all in accordance when I say that coercion is never a good thing. A faculty university obviously felt so strongly about they don't need to outline the severe repercussions of coercion in great detail in their student code of conduct. So what's the difference between a fraternity coercing incoming members to drink obscene amounts of alcohol as a requirement of admission and LSU coercing and bullying me to check my body with a substance I do not want from the vague threat of expulsion, weekly testing, and break, or else, veiled by concern benevolence? Answer: there is no difference. It is easy to regard the student body as just that, a body, a group of faceless students that are so closely interwoven they become collective in your mind, an object that is easily maneuvered and manipulated. But that is no way to see your student members. We are individual human beings, each with their own diverse opinions, complex belief systems, and voices. Individuals who deserve the right of personal choice, a liberty that will not die on my watch. And finally, I'd like to mention that I, as an adult, am paying LSU for an education, not a glorified babysitter. I implore you to keep these blatant hypocrisies in mind as you vote on resolution 2106 and break the pattern. Vote now. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you very much. The next public comment is Kate Shanks on resolution 21-06.
I'm not sure I'm following that. I made that, just so y'all know. So my name is Kate Shanks. I'm a mother of an LSU student. You just got to meet her. And I came here today to speak with you about, about resolution 2106. The title of this resolution is a call to bring LSU's vaccination mandate into conformity with state law. The fact that LSU's mandatory COVID vaccination exemption form only exists as a series of drop-down boxes that cannot be edited forces students to agree to unwanted medical procedures such as testing, and that is not in line with state law. Louisiana Revised Statute 17170 only requires a written dissent to exempt yourself from vaccine preventable immunizations. Your resolution recognizes that a written dissent is required, but then you go too far stating that you want a rationale behind the desire to seek exemption. The law is clear. Students are guaranteed the right of exemption based on medical or personal written dissent. No rationale is required by law and therefore cannot be required by LSU. 2 years into this, we only need to ask ourselves, how do we get here and where are we going? 2 weeks to flatten the curve and prevent overwhelming of hospital deaths and become take the shot or else. Remember back to your days as a student? For some of these young adults, this may be the first time in their lives they're on their own and making their own medical decisions. And now here we are in a college setting where all of us should be treated like adults we are. But some professors and administrators are trying to force students into compliance with their views instead of trusting the students to make their own conscious decisions about medical treatment and their own bodies. Trying to force weekly medical procedures in the form of testing seems intended to make students so uncomfortable they are bullied to comply with the professor's wishes. Coercion is not consent, as LSU should well know. As is now well known, vaccinated people can contract and spread the virus with similar viral loads as unvaccinated. If the goal of this resolution is to mitigate spread and not discriminate against a group of students who make a personal medical choice you do not agree with, but to only force a test on students designated unvaccinated and ignore the fact that students currently considered vaccinated, as you know that changes, are relevant when it comes to transmission and spread of the virus, is bullying, coercion, and to impose your will to force compliance. I expect better of this research university, the professors in my LSU, and I also implore you to please say no to that resolution 2106. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next public comment is Valerie Gibson on resolution 21-06. You can come to the podium, please.
So today I'm just going to read basically a statement that a mom who is a Louisiana native but lives in Texas now after Katrina that she sent in a group, and she asked that I read this on her behalf. Her name is Jennifer Jenkins McKnight. I moved from Baton Rouge. I am from Baton Rouge, moved to NOLA after attending LSU and to Houston after playing in Katrina. I have 5 boys to send to college, and each of them are 6-time LSU legacies. I cannot send my kids to LSU if they are going to remain tyrannical about COVID. And once they lose my first college-bound kid, they are going to lose the rest of them. Do they understand we all have choices? Out-of-state college costs a lot more for Louisianians to go out of state. But for those of us out of state, we have to pay top dollar to send our kids to LSU. I predict LSU will have a reduction in their incoming class of 2022 for the first time in years. Someone at LSU needs to take a hard look internally and understand the revenue loss. I won't allow my kids to be tested once per month, much less once per week. They have natural immunity from COVID in the summer of 2020. There is no need for them to get the shot or test. I'll just end with a few thoughts. That was her quote. This is my thoughts. There's a reason why the focus has shifted in the media from number of COVID deaths to number of cases. And that reason is because there is no fear factor in the number of COVID deaths anymore. With each new strain, this virus gets less deadly despite being more contagious. And that's how viruses work. If LSU science and medical departments were worth their salt, they would have long ago acknowledged that fact. But there's no power to be had in that truth. Instead, what we have is a symbolic, real-life reenactment of weekend earnings with our leaders, elected and unelected, propping up the dying pandemic for fear of losing their grip on the populace. There is no basis in reality for continuing these policies, much less for tightening the vice even more. And something I just wanted to throw in, which is totally ad-lib. If you want my kid to be tested, I want you all to be tested. Those of you who are proposing this, that you would vote in favor of this, I want to know every STD that you have ever had. I want to know your total medical history. I want you to be submitted to what we require of you. If you are going to, as adults, try to require this of other adults, then you need to be ready to have the same kind of testing and the same requirements of disclosing your medical data to other people.
Thank you very much. The next public comment is Philip Delay on resolution 21-10. You can come up to the podium now, please.
Thank you for having me. I don't need to speak. So goes the university, so goes the town. LSU is a flagship university of the state of Louisiana. I relied on LSU in the areas of horticulture and in my landscape and nursery business. And in other areas, the knowledge that I have gained, I've passed on to my customers. That's where I get that from. I ask now, how many PhDs does it take to simply follow the law? LARS 170, the state constitution is an opt-out law, but is it being respected? The governor and the LDH, they say that all you have to do, that's all you have to do is just opt out. But we all know that this is false. When the schools require a doctor's excuse, and then the doctor is in fear of losing his practice or license. Medical freedom is no longer existed at that point. Then if the doctor and the patient speak up about this, they're canceled in silence. This is censorship, and further violation of our Constitution, the First Amendment. The student is denied these options and further denied the ability to attend. Because of these reasons, then we're into discrimination based on a medical issue. Just yesterday, the AG spoke to the Health and Welfare Committee on this very issue. 400 people spoke out, not in favor of the rule the LDH put forth. The rule failed by a 13-2 vote. No one spoke in favor of the rule. Courts are beginning to rule against this type of discrimination. LSU is a state entity and should take a leadership role in following the Constitution. Respect students and faculty's medical freedom and don't discriminate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next public comment is Lauren Suda on resolution 21-10. You can come to the podium, please.
Hello, I'm here today to read a letter from Attorney General Landry that he sent to the faculty senate. I might have received a copy of it via email. Additionally, I'm going to read it right now. So he starts out saying, I'm writing to express my concerns relative to the agenda item listed as a call to bring LSU's vaccine mandate into conformity with state law and national guidelines. And I want to make sure that you are aware of the most recent pronouncements by the Louisiana legislature. On December 6, 2021, the Louisiana legislature, through the House Health and Welfare Committee, voted to stop any attempt of the Department of Health by adding the COVID-19 vaccine to the list of required immunizations for school entry. Vaccine mandates are a policy consideration that require legislative action. Further, to the extent that LSU is relying on Louisiana by statute 17-170 as authority to mandate COVID-19 vaccines, there are several things that you need to consider. First, 17-170A1A limits immunization schedule to vaccine preventable diseases. The duration of the protection from severe disease and death is still unknown when it comes to COVID-19 vaccine. Unlike the vaccines specifically listed in 17-170, which have long-term effectiveness, the CDC states that it is not known yet how long the COVID-19 vaccine protection lasts. Recent studies show that the protection against the virus may decrease over time. This reduction in protection has led the CDC to recommend certain groups to get a booster shot at least 6 months after completing their initial vaccine series. The Louisiana Revised Statute 17170 only requires evidence of immunity on groups of 2 people. 1, each person entering any school system within the state for the first time, and 2, any person entering into 6th grade. Without limitation or condition, students in Louisiana are entitled by law to opt out of otherwise required vaccinations by simply dissenting. That's 17170. Nothing in the state permits the school to override their students' written dissent. LSU is not just bound to honor the students' dissent, but also has a corollary duty to protect those rights. Additionally, medical objectors can obtain a waiver by providing the school with a physician's written statement confirming a medical contradiction preventing vaccination. Or a student can submit satisfactory proof of immunity or immunization against vaccine preventable diseases. Louisiana Revised Statute 17170 requires LSU to accept a student's religious exemption for a vaccine mandate. Louisiana law also recognizes the right to be free from creed discrimination in public education. This right includes freedom from discrimination based on both religious and non-religious beliefs. The following Louisiana law applies. Louisiana Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, stating that no law shall be enacted respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Article 1, Section 2, in access to public areas, accommodations, and facilities, every person shall be free from discrimination based on religion. And Louisiana Revised Statute 1352, 31 and 32, stating that effective August 15, 2020, the Louisiana Legislature enacted the Preservation of Religious Freedom Act. Section 5232 revised that the legislature finds and declares that the free exercise of religion is a fundamental right of the highest order in the state. The Attorney General concludes stating that I believe mandating the COVID-19 vaccine as opposed to recommending the COVID-19 vaccine is problematic. Further, he cautions this body from adopting any policy that would remove a student's right to dissent from the vaccine. Any attempt to retaliate or discriminate against any student that chooses to dissent would be a violation of state law, and it may subject the university and its employees to lawsuits or liabilities. Signed, Jeff Manning, Attorney General.
Thank you very much. The last public comment is Professor Charles Gilzel on resolution 21-08. You may come to the podium now.
Resolution 2112, there's no confidence in Senate practices, and the rebel claimed that the November 15th motion for executive session was inappropriate. While it is true that voting on the motion was mishandled, the motion itself was appropriate. Resolution 2108 accuses some officers of quote withholding information and quote doing nothing to end faculty and quote inability to execute their duties, and seeks to remove those officers. These are allegations of misconduct and incompetence. Louisiana Open Meetings Law declares a public body may hold an executive session pursuant to RS 4216 for the following reasons: discussion of the professional competence of a person, provided that the person is notified by at least 24 hours before the meeting, and investigative proceedings regarding allegations of misconduct. Since Resolution 2108 quote discusses competence and quote alleged misconduct, exception 1 and 4 apply to debate on 2108. The accused officers have notified themselves at least 24 hours before. Robert's Rules of Order declares the society has the right to investigate the character of its members and officers as may be necessary to the enforcement of its own standard. But neither the society nor any member has the right to make public any information obtained through such investigation. If it becomes common knowledge within the society, it may not be revealed to any person outside the society. Consequently, a trial must always be held in executive session, as must the introduction and consideration of all resolutions leading up to the trial. If after trial a member is expelled or an officer is removed from office, the society has the right to disclose that fact, circulating it only to the extent required for the protection of the society or possibly other organizations. Neither the society nor any of its members has the right to make public charge, which an officer or members have been found guilty, or to reveal any of the details connected to the case. A member may, at a time when non-members are not present, offer a resolution to appoint an investigating committee. At the trial, in calling the meeting to order, the chair should call attention to the fact that the meeting is an executive session and the attendant obligation ceases. Summary: Robert's Rules requires executive session for debate on 2108, and RS 4217 allows executive session with proper vote. While the Senate has occasionally expressed no confidence in the upper administration and done so in open session, this did not violate Robert's rules, which apply only to accusations against members or officers of the Assembly. The movers of 2108 themselves should have requested executive session on October 28th and November 15th, and they should do so when 2108 comes up again. Otherwise, other senators should, lest the debate be illegal under Robert's rules. The American Association of University Professors doesn't, I think, address procedures for removing faculty Senate officers, but its recommendations on dismissal procedure are relevant. Quote, except for such simple announcements as may be required covering the time of the hearing and similar matters, public statements and publicity not the case by either the faculty member or administrative officers will be avoided so far as possible until the proceedings have been completed. I explained this to the referee on November 16th before the November 16th story and the editorial on the motion and on November 20th. If you decide not to go into executive session to read and debate resolution 2108, then you must postpone 2108 either indefinitely or until you change your mind. Any reading or debate 2108 in open session was and will be out of order.
Thank you very much. My apologies, I spoke in error. There is one more public comment. Michelle Odenay on resolution 21-10. Thank you very much.
All right. Next up, thank you for those public comments. Public comments are always welcome. And we appreciate your engagement with our LSU Faculty Senate. All right, next up is the consideration of the November 15, 2021 minutes. Oh, before that, I do want to share that the letters will be shared. We got them a bit organized at the last minute, but they'll be shared with the entire Senate. That from Scott Sternberg, as well as the one from the Attorney General. All right, so moving on. May I have a motion to accept the minutes from November 15, 2021? These are the faculty senate minutes. Somebody make a motion. All right. All right, John Church. All right, and a second? Yes, John Miles. All right, is there anyone? Yes.
Have a correction to, have a correction to the minutes on page 6 under old business, section D, paragraph 4, where it says the motion passed 52-5, enter into executive session to discuss the resolution and list the 5 senators opposed. This is characterized as a vote. It was a show of hands, not a vote. To say 52-5 suggests that there was a proper legal vote that gave senators the opportunity to abstain or even express support for it. None of that was done, and I request that the minutes be changed to reflect that it was not an actual vote.
All right, I'll by Professor Hassan. All right, minutes will be revised accordingly. Professor Turan.
Yeah, Daniel Turan, Political Science. I would also add that addition to Professor Mann's comments that Louisiana revised statute 4216 requires that the vote of each member on the question of holding an executive session and the reason for holding such an executive session shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the meeting. So this includes all the yeas as well as the nays. Currently, only the nays are listed individually with the vote.
Okay, we'll take that. Yes, Mr. Jones, were you raising? Oh, all right, sorry. All right, we will take this under advisement and revise the minutes accordingly. All right, any additional revisions? All right. Well, I'm sort of caught here. All right, is there anyone opposed to accepting the minutes with those revisions? All right, we'll take that as a consensus vote. Unless anyone's opposed or wishes to abstain. All right, minutes are accepted as revised. All right, president's report.
Mayor Development at HSS, point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes,
Is it permissible for a resolution to be submitted anonymously? Or does the inclusion of such a resolution rule our agenda out of it?
I think that's a very good question, and it is something that we've taken under advisement, and I've spent no shortage of time, no little time investigating. I think we should refrain from calling it anonymous, because they did give themselves a name, I guess, though they didn't identify themselves, so, right, I guess it's just a matter of semantics, but nonetheless, we are considering that, and, we'll take it under advisement, and as I understand it, there may be volunteers to take up the resolution, so, or to sponsor the resolution. So, hold that thought, we'll continue the discussion at that point in the agenda. All right, again, I want to, now for the president's report, I would like to, once again, welcome you, remind you, this is the right.
I appeal to really the chair. That the ruling was that the amendment, that the resolution is in order, that the agenda is in order. I appeal to ruling chair and for the body.
All right, you are, so could you state your, yeah, you state that?
As I understand your ruling is that the agenda is in order, that this amendment, this resolution is in order. My motion is to appeal your ruling and ask for a vote of the body on the appropriateness of anonymous resolution, of this anonymous resolution. It's been seconded.
All right, we will, I want to stay on schedule this time, I don't want to disrupt the agenda again. So I'll have my report, we'll continue through the agenda, and we will take a vote at that time.
Point of order. There's a motion on the floor that's been duly seconded. I don't think that you could just ignore it.
Right, I'm not ignoring it, but we need to stay on schedule, we need to stay on the agenda. So let's move forward. All right, so you're wanting a vote on the agenda. What are you asking for on the agenda? To postpone the resolution?
For the third time, what I'm saying is that the resolution, the anonymous resolution should not be on the agenda. You have ruled that it should be, and I'm appealing your decision and asking for this body to decide whether that resolution should remain on the agenda. Because the agenda was inappropriately assembled with that anonymous resolution. Am I?
All right, there's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion?
Which resolution?
2111.
2111.
So I'm not clear what we're voting on. What will happen if we?
I believe that resolution 20-11 will not be on the agenda.
Why would it not have been appropriate to wait until it came up to take this vote?
That was my original stance, yes.
Because it concerns whether or not the agenda is in order. If there's a problem with the agenda, the thought is that needs to be dealt with up front.
Correct.
Question 2111 is listed as sponsored by faculty, senators, and faculty council members. So is that the same as anonymous?
They're unidentified.
Okay. That's all.
At the last faculty senate meeting, the agenda was in order because nobody said anything about it. And we agreed at the last faculty senate meeting that that would be our agenda for this coming meeting.
Any further discussion? All right, I believe there's a motion on the floor to vote on whether or not to include resolution 21-11 on the agenda. Do you have the filter set up? All right. And has the email been sent? All right. You can use the QRS code on your phone. That should take you to the website. Also, it should appear in your email. Please vote only once.
Vote yes. You're voting to remove from the agenda.
That is correct.
An affirmative vote is to remove the item from the agenda. All right, has everyone voted? Is there anyone who has not voted? All right, Ms. Knoll will count the votes, determine the votes. And in the meantime, I'll proceed with my president's report. All right, first of all, thank you for being here. You are our LSU faculty senators who volunteered to be here and are the voice of those who elected you. Taking time out of an overfull schedule to ensure a strong, resilient, meaningful faculty voice is commendable, especially during these times. I've made it clear to the administration that service required for faculty senate and faculty senate standing committees must be recognized for the commitment that it is by all departments and colleges. And speaking of commendable commitment, I'm afraid in my overexuberance, I have failed to acknowledge the service of the faculty senate executive members who served during some of the darkest and most challenging times in the history of our LSU. The year the world shut down, 2020 to 2021. I'll call out the names and officer designations of that academic year. Please raise your hand or stand as you wish to be recognized. Vice President Joan King was part of our team. Secretary Fabio Del Piera, who is here today, I believe, is an alternate. Member at large Marwa Hassan, member at large Julie Rollins Wright, and member at large John Miles, as well as past president Ken McMillan. These people were defending faculty rights, protections, benefits, and authority over educational policy every day without fail during the entirety of the global shutdown. They didn't flinch, whinge, or back down, and they were indeed the brave guardians of our LSU faculty and shared governance. Please acknowledge their service and fortitude with a round of applause for a job well done, far and above the call of duty. Thank you. All right, speaking of service, you may not be aware that the LSU Faculty Senate has 13 standing committees. Each committee is composed of 9 to 15 members, and they meet at least monthly. All committee agendas, meeting times, and minutes are posted on the Faculty Senate website. Friends, these are the only branches of the Faculty Senate. The committees are theoretically under the supervision of the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. However, we do not interfere, micromanage, or otherwise hover over these very capable, highly important, and extremely effective working groups. All have administrative liaisons. I made it a presidential priority to activate, populate, and launch every committee. Additionally, we've added the Appeals Committee and the DEI over the last 3 years. The awesome news is that these committees generate volumes of data. It's all publicly available, and the meetings are open to visitors and guests. The committees generally generate yearly reports and are also accessible on the website. There are just a few committees that we're still moving out of the registrar's office, but the rest are up and running and on the website. So it'd be helpful to me if you can inform those you represent about the Faculty Senate committees, the website and the information included. If you ever have any information or any questions, reach out to me, Ms. Knoll, or the chair of any committee. These are your committees, my friends. These are the arms of your faculty government. Governance, you must not hesitate to bring thoughts, concerns, messages on various situations from the people you represent. I've already discussed the lack of a faculty space. This continues to be an issue, even though it was brought up in 1801 faculty development, a resolution, 1801 faculty development at LSU. This is a minimum expectation for faculty so that we don't have to be hopping around from space to space. I've met with the provost multiple times in the time that has transpired over the last few months. A few things that have come up is classroom tech. VP, our CIO Woolley, is here today to talk about classroom tech, the new phone system, and various other classroom technology, I guess IT in general. The latest and greatest non-LSU 360, that is the faculty activities reporting software, has been rolled out. However, it's not working. So we are expecting some concessions on delivery of activities reports. That is, there has to be some time given to allow for this sudden, unprecedented, unexpected switch back to the paper of old. All right, some of the mysterious Ag Center communication poltergeists appear to have been moved on to greener pastures, but faculty insists that as one LSU, we need consistent and equitable communications across all of our faculty. We've discussed the last minute closures for inclement weather. This is a dynamic situation. Nonetheless, we ask that they interact with faculty on this. And of course, safety is above all other considerations. Faculty continue to insist on a seat on the board of supervisors, and additionally, raises cannot be an afterthought for faculty. With rising costs of benefits and living, our remuneration decreases with each passing year. There's a number of interim deans. This has been brought to the attention of the administration as an ongoing problem. There's also a number of interim high-level administrative positions. Though it's an unfair generalization, it has been mentioned that they're not necessarily committed or as accountable as someone who is in the space full-time. Okay, it was brought to my attention that there's no automatic tenure extension to those joining LSU in fall 2020. This is distinct from the tenure extension that was granted to those who were in place in spring 2020. So it is my understanding, and the provost is here, I believe, so he can speak up, that there is an expectation that a tenure extension will be granted. I don't see him. He's not. He left. Awesome. Okay. Well, I will follow up with him. But if you do experience any problem with requesting a tenure extension and it started in fall 2020, please reach out to me. I'll forward that to the provost. All right, we have in place an appeals committee. This is a committee from which we ask the administration to select for any sort of faculty appeals, tenure, reappointment, PS 104, 109, etc. This is better, we felt this is a stronger approach, that is having faculty elected by their peers to be selected from rather than a generation of ad hoc committees by the administration. All right, we've already talked about the space. We've also talked about the failure of the latest faculty activities report. Also, the faculty protest the lack of communication about plans for next semester, especially in light of the latest COVID variant. And we expect an update in the very, very near future. All right, based on the communications and budget and planning committee, and I believe Professor Sylvester is here as an alternate or online, there is some pushback on the request for tuition reduction and free remission for faculty, children, and spouses, as well as on Resolution 2104, faculty compensation for thesis and dissertation credit hours. So the FSCC will be circling back on that. The Council of Faculty Advisors, that is representatives from across the state who represent each of the faculty senates in our system, did meet for the first time on October 29th. We met with Chairperson Starnes. It is anticipated that he will meet with the Faculty Council of Advisors at each of our meetings. Officers were elected. Much of the same issues that I've just mentioned, interim leadership, appropriate raises. We also requested that any changes to the Board of Supervisors bylaws that affect faculty must be shared with the faculty in a transparent and timely manner. We also expressed concern about the disproportionate growth of administrative positions as well as administrative salaries. And faculty requests periodic evaluation of upper administrators from the dean level up. All right, based on a quick update, based on a suggestion by our newest faculty senators, information about the state of resolutions will be added to the website as shown, not shown. Anyway, you will be able to see on the side of each resolution what actions are being taken on them. That will be implemented immediately. The FSCC met last Friday. We discussed confirmation of standing committee appointments and ASH proposals that were approved by the ASH committee, proposals that were approved by the ASH committee. Okay, topics of concern continue to be erosion of tenure around the country. The FSCC is aware of this and will be working on talking points that articulate the true meaning of tenure in terms of pushing the limits of conventional thinking and innovating beyond the boundaries of established guidelines without fear of consequences from the academic institution. Additional topics include student advocacy and accountability procedures, and the seemingly never-ending issues with transfer credits that don't align entirely with our LSU Baton Rouge. The FSCC will be requesting the presence of VP Shin and SAA Director Jonathan Sanders about the SAA procedures, and the chairs of the CNC and ASH committees, as well as VP Avilas about transfer credits at our next meeting. In the future, this and all president's reports will be posted on the Faculty Senate website, though they are also included in the minutes. And I plan to begin something of a blog, but we don't call it a blog because that's not allowed, on the Faculty Senate website to reduce the information in the monthly reports and allow me to communicate information to the faculty without spamming email boxes. So we'll set this up over the break, and let you know when it comes live. All right, now, friends, I understand that everyone is tired, frustrated, overworked, underappreciated, and definitely underpaid. I share each and every one of those feelings. I get it, I do. But what are we doing? We are LSU. We're on the same team. We're strong together, but right now we don't look very much like the leaders we're supposed to be. This isn't a contest. This is not a war. I won't engage bullies. I will not affirm or validate bullying. And I won't condone or endorse unprofessional, targeted, harassing, or spiteful behavior. Neither should you. Is this the image we want to share with the nation, the world, our students? Really? Come on. This is our LSU. We're all working together. Be fierce for the faculty, not to it. Above all, everyone has a voice, a right to be heard. No one should ever feel otherwise or be intimidated into not speaking up. You're the elected representatives of the faculty council, all full-time faculty instructors, including instructors up. This is a lot of responsibility. I finish as always by thanking you. You're the few, the bold, the brave. Take care of our faculty. Be kind to your friends and tolerant of your fake friends, at least as much as possible. And above all, please pull as a team. We are a team. We have to be a team. You all have my best wishes for a safe, restful, and peaceful winter break. And I may your most heartfelt wish on the first star of the new year come true. All right, with that, I'll take any questions.
Hi, Roy Hyder, College of Business. I have two questions unrelated. The first one is on the tenure extension that is to be granted to those who started in August of 2020. I'm going to send an email about that. Do I understand you correctly? Is this going to be an automatic extension with an opt-out, or is it that they have to go through PS 36T and there's a soft assurance that they will get an extension?
The latter. Thank you for articulating that, and I apologize if it was confusing. But I will be circling back on this, and I do need to know if there's any pushback on the request. Because it is my understanding that it should not be, yes.
On a separate item, I have a question about what we just voted on and what that actually means. We have removed 2111 from the agenda.
Correct.
Have we eliminated 2111 from consideration by this body because it is anonymous? Or do we have an understanding of whether or not that is allowed within this body to have anonymous sponsorships of resolutions?
So we voted on to remove it from the agenda. I don't have an answer about whether or not, resolutions that do not have a specific name associated with them are illegal. We will be seeking counsel on this for any such future resolutions that arrive like that.
So without having answered to that, why have we removed it from the agenda? How would that make the agenda so-called out of order? Just curious. How do we don't know the answer?
So without having knowledge about that premise, how is our agenda out of order, which is what we just voted on? I'm just confused about what we have achieved here.
Well, the faculty senate has voted to remove the resolution from the agenda. That's the extent of what is decided.
I'm going to Hoffman from Minorities and Cultures. I have a follow-up question about the academic report system. So we all know that Faculty 360 has been removed and it was supposed to be replaced by now, I think, with a new system called, I remember correctly, Elements. So could you just clarify what exactly is the concern that this is not happening? Is there a problem, or are we just waiting for Elements to roll out and it hasn't happened yet?
Well, let me see. I'm trying to see if there's anyone from OAA who could answer these. Intern VP Bach, yes?
Thank you. Sorry, I'm on the phone right now with the student government. So this is not my area of experience, so anything I say wrong, I apologize. So the question was about Elements. So Elements was implemented this semester for sabbatical requests, and I believe that has been working okay, but they've been working through some kinks. The issue, as Dr. Woolley has mentioned, was that yes, in the spring, it looks like we will go back to a paper-based method of evaluation, but I'll text Dr. Dixon on follow-up. Does that answer your question? Thank you.
So I think the additional question is, So a lot of people have entered 10, 20, 30 years of activities.
That is correct.
Into digital measures.
Yes, I know.
Now, during one of the busiest time of the year, we're having to go back to the page. So will there be some consideration given to faculty in terms of time to now revert back to the old system?
It's an annual review, so I think that will lessen some of the work that we have to do as a faculty member. I hope all of you archived the materials from Faculty 360 and downloaded a copy of your PS36. I can follow up on that as well. So let me, yes.
It's not possible to reactivate Faculty 360.
I believe our contract ended with them, but these are all questions that I'm gonna follow up with right now. So thank you. I'm sorry I can't give you better answers.
Oh, we appreciate it. Thank you for that feedback. All right, any further questions? All right, moving forward, well, CIO Woolley is here to talk about all things IT and phone system, as I understand it. So, welcome, sir. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm going to try to be brief in my presentation, but I want to go over a few items, and hopefully what you will see in this, ITS is committed to improving our services for our customers. We really are. Hopefully, as we go through this, that would be apparent to you, but I'm happy to take questions and input from this body on some of the things we're planning on doing. So the first thing I want to start with is the phone system replacement project. This is a project that was started a few years ago. This is a picture of our phone system. There are components of this that are 30 years old. When they break, we actually have to buy them on eBay. There's no way to buy them new. It's serving over 10,000 phones, and you can see the voicemail boxes. And we pay maintenance on this $250,000 a year. The original plan from a few years ago was to replace this with another on-premise phone system, not as ugly as this, but it still would have been an on-premise phone system. But things have changed in the market and the technology, and so what we are going to be doing is using Microsoft Teams as our call center. And I'll explain why, I'll explain the features and all that to you. Number one, there's very little additional cost. We already own Microsoft licensing. With that licensing that you use for your email and Word and all of that comes with licensing for a phone system. We were going to spend, by switching to Teams instead of having anything on campus in the old way, it's going to save us around $4 to $4.5 million. So it's a big deal as far as the savings. But that's not the only reason why we're doing it. There's lots of features that I want to go over that we'll get. Some of it will be that, we will not pay for long distance anymore, domestic long distance, or Canada or Mexico. We won't have a lot of equipment to maintain. There'll be some on campus, but nothing like what you saw in the picture. You will not have to put in authorization codes anymore if you make a long distance call, which sometimes meant just the county over, and you still have to put in long distance codes. That you won't have to do anymore. And I think the important thing with this is you as a user will have the individual choice and ability to make and receive calls from multiple devices. So we're changing the paradigm, and your phone number that you have assigned to for LSU, which right now goes to a phone sitting on your desk or your lab or whatever it is. Now that phone number is associated with you as an individual, and you can choose how you'd like to receive phone calls. It can be through a traditional phone, an upgraded phone, but it still have a traditional experience, or it could be on your computer, or it could be even on your cell phone. So you have the choice, and you can pick how that will work. And you can use it up to 10 different devices. So anywhere you go, if you go across the country and you log into another computer, you can actually take phone calls there. So it will follow you as you choose. And if you do use your cell phone, you can use your cell phone to make LSU-based phone calls, so it'd be the 578 number. So the user, if you call somebody using Teams, the Teams application on your phone, it'll show your LSU number, not your personal phone, so nobody will know what your number is. And then there's also going to be improved voicemail capabilities. So now when you get voicemails, they can be sent to you as an email, and you will get it as a recording and a transcription. So both will be available to you through email. And then again, we think it's a much easier implementation. We already have Teams, we already have it running, so it'll be a lot simpler to be able to process. What I want to make sure I'm clear on is you will have the choice, and it will be each individual will choose how they would like to receive the calls. If you want to go with a Teams phone, which very much acts like a traditional phone, you've got the buttons, same thing, the phone rings, it'll answer there. Or you can at the same time while you have this, choose to answer the calls on your computer or your cell phone. So you'll have all those different options with this system. As far as time frame, we are starting this project now. We're still waiting for some final circuits and things from AT&T and one piece of software to come in. We will start rolling this out department by department. You're going to do this in a very customer-friendly fashion. We will reach out to the department well in advance. We want to make sure we understand what phones are existing, what phones still want to be kept, and all of that, and then we will go through each department and make the changes, and we will also be offering training. So we think it'll take about 18 months, depending on how many phones we're putting in, how many choose to actually get those phones if they want to use the computer. So that's one project I wanted to give an update on. When I'm all done, I'll answer questions. I've got two more quick items. One is classroom technology. Again, we are committed to improving your experience in using technology in LSU classrooms. And that is very important to me. What we want to do, we want to conduct a survey, and I know you guys are tired of surveys, but it's important to me, especially when we're talking classroom technology, the fact we have an important place. So I want to at least have some data. I've talked to some of you, I understand some of the concerns, and they make a lot of sense. But I want to make sure that we give every faculty member an opportunity to give us their feedback so we can have good data to make some decisions. Now, we'll be doing this as a joint effort, as you see, with what's called Uber Tech. I call it academic technology, but it makes more sense to you guys on what that purpose of that committee is. But academic affairs, Dr. Bach, we're working with her, and obviously ITS. So it'll be a joint effort to do the survey, and then we're going to work together. Once we get that feedback, we're going to work on what are some paths forward. I do believe there's lots of options we have. I feel confident that we'll be able to make improvements. The question will just be how and over what time frame. But those improvements, before we make them, I would want, again, faculty to understand, here's, based on the data we've got, here's what we're proposing as improvements that we can make in the classrooms, and again, the faculty is very important to us. So that's another project we're working on. You'll see that in January, is when we're planning on sending out a very short survey, one that will get us good data that we can act on. And then the last item, software center. This is a new product that we are launching. What it allows us to do, you as a user, you can use it to install software. I'll show you what it looks like. But the reason for this is, again, we want to make our customers' lives easier, and we also want to make our lives easier. So with this, you'll be able to self-serve and install software with the click of one button onto your LSU-owned computer. There are some requirements there. This right now is installed on 4,500 computers across campus, so it's not everywhere. We did have some colleges step up and say they wanted to be guinea pigs, and they are in some of the areas like business and VetNet and MassCom and HSS, or we have this there. And the way that it works is you will have an icon called Software Center on your computer. So you can do a quick search on your computer right now. If you see it, you know, you got it. Once you launch it, so these are all the applications right now that we have what we call package in software centers. So for example, notice SPSS is on there. So in the past, a faculty member for the research, whatever wanted to install SPSS, you had to call ITS, we had to find out how you're going to pay for it. We then got your money, and then we had to manually install it and all that. All that is gone. We are covering that cost centrally so that it can be available to all faculty. You hit the button, it goes on your computer. That's it. If there's no other thing you have to do, and it'll point to the license server, so when the license needs to be upgraded, it'll automatically, when we upgrade it centrally, it upgrades your computer, so you won't even have an issue when the license goes out. So these are all the packages we have on now. And we are adding, as we get more packages, we're adding to this. So I wanted to make you aware of this, because again, this is trying to make your lives easier. We're trying to find services that one, make our lives easier and also make it easier. So that is, and this is what it looks like. We actually go to install SPSS, just hit that install button, and it's scripted. So it goes on, you don't have to answer any more questions or that. That is a very brief 3 items that we're working on, and I'm happy to take any questions or answer anything.
Yeah, just real quick, so if I put my office line on my personal cell phone, is there a way to make this not ring at like 8 p.m.?
Yes, there will be lots of options with the team where you can configure. So you can configure when it would ring your cell phone. And you know, so you might say I only want it to ring between 8 and 5, you know, Monday through Friday. There's lots of configurations as to where your calls will go back. Awesome.
Hey, Bruce. First of all, let me commend you on some very positive developments here, especially with the phone system, but also with the software. Just do you anticipate any problems if somebody has multiple LSU computers, some of them in home storage, and can we download that?
So the 2 requirements of what I showed you with Software Center, it needs, well, it's 3 requirements, sorry. It needs to be an LSU computer. At the moment, it works with Windows, so for Apple's, but there is options for Apple. So Apple users out there, don't worry, we are looking at the Apple users. But for now, Windows, LSU computer, and connected to the LSU domain, which if you don't know that, your tech person will be able to tell you if it is or it's not. And if it's not, it can be joined. And then the 4th item, your college has to be enrolled in our program. So we have this that we offer centrally. And like I mentioned, VetMed and some of the other colleges, you know, were our guinea pigs and said, let us try it now, and we're using it. As more colleges choose, and it's their choice at the moment to adopt it, then we will start to see it on your computers.
Thank you. It's great news.
Thank you.
Great ideas. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Number one, I've been in a couple of meetings, and in place of Zoom, they use Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
And the system crashed. I was just wondering how reliable this system is.
So it's cloud-based. I don't know what caused the crash, so then I can't answer that, but it is a cloud-based product in Microsoft's cloud. I do know, I have ties to the University of South Florida, Tampa, which is 47,000 students, 42,000 on the main campus. They have already switched to Teams. They use it as a phone system across the entire campus. And we've been in contact with them and other schools. More and more schools are adopting this. It is working for them. So I have confidence that it will work. We've been testing it in-house. I've got one on my desk that I've been playing with, so it does work. But we did do some diligence on checking with other schools, and not just any school, a large school, a large private, a large public R1 like you said. So I have confidence. It works for them.
Thank you. The second comment regarding me, that I really appreciate your effort to streamline the software, because we're being bombarded with classroom technology software. And all the private vendors are just contacting us all the time. So if that can be streamlined and a certain number we don't use, it would be much better. That whatever.
Yeah, and I like definitely streamlining, and I like trying to make as much software available as possible. And some of this comes from, there was an IT governance research faculty committee that also put together a report that they shared with me. And some of it was researchers need more access to certain software. SPSS was on that list. That's why we went ahead and said, let's get that one done, because that was an easy win. But there's others on there, and I'm looking all the time, how can we make that, making it available broadly is a little sometimes difficult, because you got to figure out the cost and the licensing. But it is something we try to do, and as we do that, as more colleges adopt this software I showed you, it's easy for you to get.
Okay, just for clarification, we, for those faculty members who currently do not have access to software center, what is it that they need to do in order to get access, to get this under their machines?
So
or is there nothing that you can just wait, do we just have to wait?
Well, so the other, it is not an automatic, it is not something we as ITS are mandating that the colleges do. I'm trying to be very, so just so you know, we have created a committee that I call the Department IT Subcommittee that has 22 members, one from every college and one from every primary unit on campus. We collaborate, we meet every 2 weeks. So we're working through them for part of this, but I haven't mandated because I don't know that really I should be mandating that yet. We are offering it as, here's an option for you. It's a benefit to your users. I do think eventually everybody will, but I know engineering has reached out, so I think engineering is going to be next. And more, I think colleges will, because it doesn't really impact your use of the computer or anything, it just will appear. So
Interesting question.
So it's going, right now it's on a, if the college requests it or the department requests it, then we will activate it for them.
Thank you. Rosemary Petersville, HSS. And I have 2 questions for you. So the first is a little more practical about new technology in our classrooms, but hardware rather than software. I teach in colleges. We have 2 seminar rooms on the 4th floor. We've got new computers years ago, and they do not have DVD drives. So, and I teach French film, and not everything is streaming through Canopy or Netflix, or so I have a huge collection of DVDs that I currently cannot use in my class. So my question is really more of a request, which is a happy medium between the tech of the future and the tech of the past.
Yeah, and I think, so for one, the reason why I'm pausing is your seminar rooms, there's different types of classrooms on campus, which is something that, again, is on our radar and something I'm hoping bears itself out in the survey. From a faculty member's perspective or a student's perspective, when you walk into a classroom, you have no idea whether, I don't think maybe you do, but I doubt, is this a registrar scheduled room, which means different things for the technology versus a department scheduled room. And that's a concern to me because you as a faculty member can have a totally different experience from one room to the other, or a student can have a different experience. So we're working on some ideas where maybe we can standardize that and create a minimum standard that you as a faculty can expect for any room you walk into to teach. That would be, I'd love to try to get there, and that's what we're working on. For what you're talking about, it is, most computers won't come with DVD, but there's options for you, because I think what we need to have is you have the ability that you can go to any room, because there are portable DVDs, and what we need to have is that you can go to any room, plug that in and use it with your DVDs, which should, we want to make sure that's an option. But these are the types of things I'm looking for, is that type of input, so that we don't lose sight of all of your individual needs. Again, we can't accommodate everything with the need, but I want to understand all this as we're thinking about any changes in classroom technology.
Thank you. Then my second question is, it's a little more complex, I think, but, so when I upgraded to the new Microsoft Outlook Office, whatever, sorry, I don't have the vocabulary, but the package, right? And Word all of a sudden required me to sign into my LSU account, which makes me a little concerned that everything I compose in a Word document is now the property of LSU. Whether it's a personal letter or, and I only have one computer, so I do all of my personal typing on my laptop. So whether it's a personal letter or an LSU email or my research, it required me to sign in to my Microsoft Office account through LSU in order to use Word.
You know, this is here in the office.
Yes.
Here.
And it was actually everywhere. It was here, it was at home. Now, I'm guessing from the eyebrows I see around the room that this might be an anomalous experience, but it raised some flags. So my question about the phone using Microsoft Teams is, who then owns the content of our phone calls? And what is our privacy guarantee if we switch to Microsoft Teams as we switch to Microsoft?
So
Does that make sense?
Oh, it's a fantastic question, and I again, so yes, with Microsoft and the way things are going, use Outlook, you know, Word, I'm not so sure, but I know Outlook and Teams, you do have to authenticate with your LSU credentials. But that, now I know we have a legal person back, so just I know I have some backup, but that aspect has nothing to do with what is private or not private. Being a state institution, there are public records laws. So the fact that as part of your job, you're writing an email, that makes it a public record, not whether you signed in or didn't sign in. So with in regards to Teams, the thing to keep in mind, it does not change the paradigm. Right now, if you pick up your phone in your office and call somebody and have a conversation, it doesn't exist anywhere. That's no different if you use Teams to make the call. Yes, you have signed into Teams, but you're making a call, a voice call. There is no recording of that call, and so there's no public record that exists. It was a voice conversation. Now, if you get a voicemail, yeah, that's going to become a public record. But I don't think it would be any different on your phone. There was a voicemail. So it doesn't. I don't believe it creates anything new that you should be concerned about as regards to privacy. That's my. But I'm happy to talk. And again, if anybody has other questions, please reach out to me. I am happy to have more detailed conversations. It helps me knowing what you're concerned about because it helps me down the road too. So I'm always open to hear.
Just to follow, the paragraph, the conversation through the phone will not be recorded in the phone.
That is correct. There is some ability, I believe, that you can choose to record a call, and there's some call center functionality inside of Teams. But by default, if you pick up your phone and you make a phone call, there is no recording. It doesn't exist anywhere. It changes if you get left a voicemail.
Additional questions? All right, thank you very
Thank you very
much.
much.
Now, going back to our regular schedule of agenda. We appreciate, just to be clear, there are many people who ask to come before the faculty senate. And we do ask them to stay to a time period for CIO Woolley. Was reminded many times. So thank you, sir, for sticking to the 10 minutes. And we appreciate all the business from our administrators. All right, next up is the first item on the agenda, or sorry, on the resolution agenda. Resolution 21-02, faculty endorsement of the Graduate Student Bill of Rights. Sponsored by Faculty Senator Hannah.
Thank you. I'd actually like to make a motion pertaining to the following 4 agenda items. So I would like to move that we postpone definitely to the February meeting, Resolution 2102 and 2108. We postpone to a definite time, Resolution 2106 to the January meeting, and we postpone indefinitely Resolution 2107.
Second, Kevin Agriculture.
Sure. So I move that we postpone without a time resolutions 2102 and 2108 to the February meeting. Resolution 2106 to be postponed indefinitely to the January meeting, and resolution 2107 to be postponed indefinitely.
All right, I believe there's a motion and there was a second. I believe this is open to discussion.
What's the reason?
So 2102 is still in revision. The graduate student assembly or the graduate student association has been working on this. It's taking quite a bit of time to get revisions. Those are currently under revisions at the graduate school. And so I think that they will be ready to proceed by February. 2107 was at the request of the sponsors. 2108 was we would like to have some disposition on the status of resolution 2112 before deciding to proceed. And 2106 was to see the status of the Omicron variant, which could impact the necessity of this resolution.
So we have 4 resolutions to deal with at one time. It's quite possible that I might vote to approve one, vote not to approve another. So my suggestion is that we take them one at a time.
There's a request there's a request that we consider each one of these individually. This is probably, well, it is reasonable given that those votes all have to be recorded. Now, this will take some time. So, Ms. Knoll, do you have so I guess we need to, well, there is a motion on the floor to consider these individually and a second. I believe we need to take a vote to consider them individually.
Who made the motion to separate them for the record? What's her name?
Is that a friendly amendment? Can I do this?
All right.
Yes.
Without, I can't.
Without a vote? Yeah, I think it could be. It's a
Whatever the
subsidiary.
motion is, my motion is to split the 4 resolutions so that we vote on them one at a time.
Yes.
What's your name?
That's an amendment to the resolution.
All right.
Who's second? What was your name?
There's an amendment to the motion to consider all the resolutions together, or to postpone them as indicated. And there is currently a motion on the floor to consider them individually that has been seconded. I believe this is a subsidiary motion that has to be voted on. Is there? All right. So again, a vote, an affirmative vote would be to consider the individual actions on the resolution separately. That is, they would require a vote and a discussion for each one. All right, I believe it's being set up. Please check your emails.
It's gonna take me a few minutes to create this one, to vote on them individually. So just give me a few minutes.
Okay. Would the person who seconded the first motion to consider them all, to postpone them all, and consider them all together, please identify yourself. All right.
Well,
So yes, consider all of
Yes.
no. Is a vote for the original motion?
Correct. So a yes is to consider them separately. A no is to vote on them all together.
while this is going on, I'd like to say something about 2102. We just received a draft of that graduate student bill of rights yesterday in our inbox. Now, I would like to know, is this revised draft going to be received in a timely manner? If this is postponed to February, are we going to get it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days before the meeting? Because I read this, I actually skimmed through it last night. And while there are certain parts of it that are anodyne, there are some other parts of it that I would consider toxic and perpetuating the atmosphere of legalism at LSU and excessive bureaucracy. So I think that this motion in particular, 2102, the draft of this Bill of Rights needs to be put out in a timely manner such that we can consult with our departments, our faculty, on whether we actually want to vote for this or not.
Okay, I believe, Professor Jerome, how far in advance do you think the revised, well, I don't know that he knows, he's sponsoring this on behalf of the graduate students, but would you be willing to ensure that the revised Bill of Rights is presented to the faculty senate?
Yes, certainly.
In
And
advance?
I will say that these are fairly extensive revisions that are being implemented based on the initial feedback that was received at the meeting in the spring, which is part of the reason why they're taking as long as they are. So they are seeking to incorporate the comments of the Senate that were received at the first reading.
All right, we are live. Here we go. So you should have received a link in your email. Yes, Ms. Moore?
Yes.
You can also do it by QRS code. Again, a yes is to consider each of the proposed postponements individually. A no is to consider them all together. All right, has everyone voted? All right, the vote is to consider each postponement or other action individually. So first up, there is a motion to postpone definitely to the February meeting, resolution 21-02, faculty endorsement of the graduate student bill of rights. And I believe there is a second. So there's a motion by Professor Jerome. Who made the second, please? All right, Professor Feldman. All right, discussion. Yes, Professor Miles.
If we knew that this was going to be delayed, why was it on the agenda?
So, yes, we have been allowing postponements previously incorrectly. Once something enters into discussion, is the property of the faculty senate, and the Senate has to vote on whether or not to allow the postponement or withdrawal.
and to have a specific, postpone, so it is postponed to a definitive date, definite date, is postponed indefinitely, et cetera. So this is why we have to do it, to be, correct. Yes, Professor Hoff.
Boyd Heidelberg, College of Business. I'm very confused by this resolution. We don't actually have a graduate skill student bill of rights present. Right now, this is going to be considered resolution 2102, which is definitely postponed to February. But we don't know that in February we will have a graduate student bill of rights. It seems to me that this is just an out of order resolution. If we don't actually have a document that we could endorse it as well. So by postponing it even definitely, we are signaling something that is very confusing, I think, at this point.
So is your subsidiary motion to postpone it indefinitely?
Sure. I don't even understand what the resolution is if it doesn't exist. I think we had the first reading and there was nothing to actually endorse. I'm just confused by the resolution itself. It's a very hopeful resolution, I suppose.
All right,
He needs to understand what to do with like.
yes.
The resolution was already entered into discussion, and we had already seen the Bill of Rights, and so people have already made comment on it. So you can delay it, not absolutely.
That's my question. We've just been told that it's a draft, it doesn't exist. How is it possible? We've just been told that it's a draft, that doesn't exist. How is it possible that we have gone through that motion?
Well,
We have a draft.
I say,
No, I know, but it is a draft, but how do we endorse a draft?
That's a good point, but there is a draft.
it was, because of the discussion, there had to be some revision, and so they've been working on revisions for several months now, and that's why it's. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan.
No, that's accurate.
This is a vote to postpone. Definitely until February. Additional discussion.
For this, sir, what's the genesis of this? I would make two grad student. Where is it a market issue, a college issue? Graduate Student Association, which college or department?
This is the University Graduate Student Association, and they put forward and passed a proposed graduate student bill of rights of their own, which they were asking the faculty senate to enforce.
Was there a certain group of graduate students where this is a more permanent issue, like maybe chemistry labs?
There were issues which were different but pertinent across different units. So the students in the natural sciences had a different set of concerns than the students of the humanities and those in the social sciences. So they sort of put them all in. And the feedback from the Senate was, as was offered a little bit earlier, right? Some of these are anodyne, some of them are a bit too broad, some of them are too litigious. So what the students have been doing under the direction of myself and another faculty member who reached out to offer guidance was to essentially get them to look at the existing policy infrastructure, identify which policies would pertain, which of the principles they would seek to have the faculty senate endorse, and then identify where those principles are not accurately represented within the existing policy structure, to then go to the graduate school with the imprimatur of the Senate to suggest that they should then create those policies. So that is what the process would be seeking to do once they have finalized their revisions to the document that was presented at the first reading.
This is a one size fits all for every, so we have PhD policies in my department which already address some of this, but we have some of the stuff that gets a lot of, as you mentioned, litigation.
Yeah, and that's what we've been trying to do is sort of, thinking of a Bill of Rights, thinking it as a broad statement of principles, not a system of practices. And that's where, because that is where much of the opposition came to in the initial reading, so sort of expanding up to broader principles that then would allow departments to enact policies which would be consistent with the principle but appropriate for their setting.
Who's the question? Who, call the question?
Okay, there's a motion to call the question. This means that we need to move forward with a vote without any further debate. However, we must vote on the call the question. So is it okay if we show hands? Will everyone be okay with that?
Sorry, point of order, Louisiana open meeting laws doesn't allow a show of hands. According to Attorney General Opinion 19-0022, the vote requires a show of hands is not.
All right, we will revert to Qualtrics then. Here we go. Please vote on whether or not to call the question. A yes vote indicates that we will immediately take a vote to definitely postpone resolution 21-02 until our February meeting. That is, we are voting on whether or not to take a vote.
Yes.
No, yes. Give me a second.
What are we voting on?
What we are voting on, the question has been called. That means there is a motion to move to a vote. That is what it means. It is a vote to move to a vote. Okay? Bear with me. A vote to move to the vote. If you call the question and there is a second, we must vote on whether or not to now vote immediately without further discussion. And every one of these votes requires that we set it up. So there was a call, the question, and a second. Now we have to vote on whether or not to vote on whether to postpone the resolution until February, which will require another vote.
Mandy, I apologize for making. I did not think this through.
Would you like to retract? Yes, would you like to retract?
It'd probably save us time on balance to
All
rescind.
right, if you wish to rescind the motion, you may do so.
No, that's the wrong vote.
That's the wrong vote.
I think Dan had the right idea. Instead of twisting ourselves like that.
It'll take 4 different votes now.
All right. So now we are voting on calling the question. Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to redo that one. Yep.
President Lopez.
Oh,
President.
Someone online, like.
Oh, whoops.
Okay, Professor Roland, you're in charge of our Zoom.
So they're supposed to raise their hands. Who wants to speak?
Professor Daniels raised.
Yes, thank you. I don't see the Qualtrics on calling the question. I see the one on postponing the resolution. Is it still being set up? The call the question?
We're working through it.
Okay, thanks.
Madam President, can you direct people on Zoom to use the raise hand function if they want?
Yes, those on Zoom, please raise your hand to be recognized. Professor Roland is watching the screen to make sure you are recognized if you raise your hand. All right, now, as I understand.
Use the raise hand function.
Use the raise hand function. Don't just raise your hand. Use the raise hand function. Okay. We're voting on whether or not to vote. Yes is to vote, no is not to vote.
Madam President, we have someone who would like to ask the question from Michelle that they would like to ask the question.
Ask a question.
I don't know.
Okay, we're taking a vote now, the question has been called, but I'm happy to take the question. Can I hear it? Okay. Okay, could those online speak up, please state your name. We don't want to exclude you from the conversation, but we are now voting on whether or not to vote to postpone resolution 21-0. Do you wish to address the Senate? Is there someone online trying to reach out?
I'm sorry, I was voting.
Oh, all right.
Professor, well, I don't know. Professor Massey has put her hand down. Professor Ion Niglescu.
Okay, has everyone?
Professor Massey has her hand up.
All right, Professor Massey, did you wish to address the Senate?
Yes.
Okay.
Just point it at the, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Actually, sorry, no, I am not going to speak at this time.
All right, okay, everyone has voted on whether or not to vote. Yes?
Yes.
All right, we have agreed to vote. Can we move forward without additional discussion? Is that all right?
Yes.
All right, can we take a vote now on whether or not to postpone resolution 21-02 definitely to the, for a definite date, that is February, our February meeting. We anticipate that there will be a revised graduate set or graduate student bill of rights available at least 1 week prior to our next meeting.
Everything, so.
Correct, Professor Thorne?
So that is an active activity.
All right. Please vote on whether or not to postpone voting on this resolution until that. February. Yes.
Professor Ion Niglescu, like to ask a question?
I don't have a question. I just try to vote.
Oh, okay. Did you not get it on the email?
I didn't see the email. I'm just looking, and listening all the time. So I try to vote on, you said yes or no, but it's very difficult, to find out.
Okay. Yeah, Ms. Knoll.
Either.
Okay, Ms. Knoll, the people online are not receiving the email. Is anyone else receiving the email? Okay, she's resent it. Has everyone voted? All right. Okay, well, we're waiting for our results. Moving on. There is all right, postponed. Next, resolution 21-06. A call to bring LSU's vaccination mandate into conformity with state law and national guidelines. As I understand, this is to be postponed until the January. All right. All right.
Can you say what the reason was again? I forget.
The reason,
So the reason was that changing circumstances with the Omicron variant, we wanted to see the status of the Omicron variant was over the ensuing weeks, particularly with removal of mask mandate on campus, to see if that would affect what we thought desirable policies would be for recommendations for the spring.
all right, so the point is to revise it according to the dynamic situation that's evolving with the Omicron variant. All right, discussion. Who seconded the motion to postpone it until the January meeting? Okay, we have a second. All right, discussion. Yes. Okay, yeah.
Carol Friedman, College of Engineering. So as we heard in the letter from the Attorney General, discrimination of unvaccinated students is illegal. And that is what this resolution calls for. And I think we should vote for it today and vote against it. Thank you.
All right. So, all right, the discussion is there a motion? Is there a subsidiary is there a subsidiary motion by the Senate?
Nobody seconds that. Nobody seconds that. Change your mind.
All right,
You withdrew the motion.
motion. All right. All right, I think we're getting ready. Is there additional discussion? All right, this is a vote. A yes is to postpone it to the January meeting, a no is not to postpone it. And that would mean moving forward with the discussion today. Okay, so is that clear? Yes to postpone, no to discuss it. And presumably vote on it today. All right, a yes is to postpone, a no is to discuss it today. All right, I'm pretty sure it would be warmer outside. All right, while we are voting, not to disrupt anyone's chain of thought. There's also a motion to postpone a resolution 21-07, a resolution commending faculty grassroots collective action sponsored by Senators Rosemary Perry, Peters Hill, and Kevin Ringleman.
What is the exact motion on that?
This is to postpone that resolution, so yeah.
Definite, to postpone it indefinitely. All right, is there any discussion while we collect the votes on this? Yes.
Can I get the second?
Oh, was there a second to postpone it indefinitely? Yeah. Okay.
Just to be clear what we're voting on, it's the difference between postponing something indefinitely and withdrawing the resolution. It's not clear to me.
Withdrawing means that it is withdrawn permanently. Postponing it indefinitely means that anyone who votes in favor of it being postponed can bring it back again. Anyone who votes against it cannot. If it's withdrawn, it cannot be raised again. All right. So we'll. This is 2106. The results for the vote of 2106. All right, and it is postponed until the January meeting. Now the vote, or any discussion on the resolution 2107. Yes, Professor Mark.
Just a question about the rationale.
Okay.
Why are we delaying? It's an issue that is talking about something that happened last summer. Nothing is going to change with regard to the resolution, I don't believe, regarding last summer between now and January.
Which one are you talking about?
Your resolution.
2107.
We're on 2107, the grassroots.
Grassroots.
Yeah,
That's what he's on.
It's being postponed indefinitely, nothing on the agenda unless someone takes a proactive motion. You're ready to take the agenda.
Then withdraw it.
Yeah, it is ultimately the fact, I do not have standing to withdraw the motion from that sponsors, when I want to all together, I had to make a motion to vote indefinitely, which has substitute the same effect, but I don't have standing to withdraw.
What about
We split the
sponsor?
So we tried to withdraw this, but we were not able to through the fact that Senate Executive Committee, so this was the fastest way to get it off the agenda.
You can make a motion.
You can do it after.
But then we have to vote again, because we've already voted, so it's just. It'll be gone forever. It'll be gone forever.
We didn't vote on this one yet.
Okay.
No, you can make an amendment to your motion.
The current motion on the floor is to postpone this resolution indefinitely. However, you can make a motion to withdraw. All right. There is a second. Yes? No, yes. Professor Miles makes a second to postpone it indefinitely.
The second was by everybody.
Okay, the second was by Rosemary. All right. Any more discussion? Okay, a positive vote. A yes means that it is postponed indefinitely. A no means we commence with discussion. A yes means we postpone it indefinitely. A no means we commence with discussion. All right.
Sorry to interrupt, couldn't hear what the no means.
The no means that we will commence with discussion at this meeting. Did you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right, has everyone voted? All right, moving on. Everyone voted? All right, the next one is second reading of resolution 21-08. Correct, and the motion is to postpone resolution 21-08 until the February meeting. Is that? Okay, discussion.
I'd like to make a subsidiary motion to postpone it indefinitely.
You can't do that.
Why not?
Just
Amendment to your motion.
It definitely supersedes the motion to postpone it indefinitely. And a motion to postpone it to a certain time is only amendable to change the time to which it can be postponed. You can't postpone it indefinitely.
All right. I move to make Daniel Tyrone the parliamentarian.
I just think there's been a lot of absurdity going on about some of these things. And so,
guys are all elected representatives of your department. You guys are all elected representatives of your department, right? In other words, if we have a department of 6 people, don't hire, there's 2 of us because you represent one department. Maybe it's 3. So, listen, for important items or resolutions, your department should be told, so you should get their response, and you come here to represent that on your own agenda, right? I told my faculty on that resolution on the vaccine mandate, that was last May, and 85% positive. And I'm sure all the rest of you. When you came into the, in the Senate, everybody voted 85 to 90% vaccine mandate. Student organization voted the same. So, the faculty executive committee is elected committee by the senators. And we represent the Senate and the provost. In other words, the line of command goes from mandate to the provost. And the provost to the president, and the president to the board of supervisors. That's what it goes. The Senate has no power. No power. We only advise. Can't make any decisions. The board of supervisors. So after that resolution, we had 2 meetings with Provost Haney, and we were the committee was very strong in trying to promote the vaccine mandate for the fall semester. When President Tate came in 1st of June, we were the first committee he met with. And we also told him the same thing, that this was really an important issue on our first meeting with Tate. Then we had 3 meetings with Provost Lee, and each of those meetings, Mandy and the rest of us were extremely positive about trying to get this across the administration that we needed. And as you know, what happened is that Provost went to the president of the board of supervisors, and the board of supervisors said no. They said we have to have FDA approval. And this was in the face of Indiana University, and they went through the Supreme Court and found that it was okay to approve it before the FDA. So the board of supervisors just has complete control. It's a board area. You have to understand that. So the thing came up that the Senate's not doing enough.
Point of order.
This was a whole.
Is this discussion of whether or not we are supposed to
Yes,
issue this resolution?
This is in part about this resolution.
Well, the motion on the floor is whether or not we are postponing this resolution.
I'm sorry, I have the floor. Okay, so some senators decided that the Senate wasn't doing enough. What more could the Senate have done? I mean, in fact, we were advocating for the provost. That's what we have to do. We were advocating to the president. What more could the Senate have done? So then a group of unelected people decided that the faculty.
Point of order, are you debating the motion? The motion is not on the floor. I'm really confused here I'm sure this is a speech you prepared, but I don't quite understand. Are you debating the motion or are you debating the direction of the postponement?
So I want to finish this because I think it's relevant. Okay, so what happened, first of all, part of this motion is criticizing the faculty senate executive committee parts of it, and I'm trying to explain why this probably is absurd. Now, what happened is a group of people that are unelected went to contacted the whole faculty, which is called the faculty council. There's no such thing as council, it's the whole faculty. And they contacted the faculty council and asked for a vote. So they all voted 80% or 90%. Well, it's the same faculty that you represented that already voted. That's no surprise that they voted 80%. And then we heard comments like, well, with all that momentum from the faculty council, why doesn't the Senate do more? It's just duplication, okay? And egregiously, someone, and I think the leader, big leader of this is Professor Mountain. Someone went right into the board of supervisors and contacted them. they're unelected, self-appointed people, and they went to the board of supervisors and they.
Order,
And so
point of order, you used my name.
what happened is that the board of
I
supervisors.
asked the chair to rule on the point of order here.
I'll answer later. So the
You're
board of
not the
supervisors,
chair.
don't interrupt me.
I believe that you have the standards.
Obviously got upset because they had input from the faculty senate and input from the same people, which are the faculty, brought by someone else.
I want to ask you a question of privilege, that this is not appropriate to be discussed, that the chair is not enforcing the rules in regards to the current debate of the motion under consideration.
What's your ending, brother?
Can I ask a question before we move on? I still don't have a second for this motion. So Daniel, you made the motion, but no one seconded.
I second.
Seconded again. All right, I believe,
I just think we need more, I'm not sure to withdraw this whole resolution. That's all.
All right, there, let's see, Professor Lane, the request that is making a motion to have the resolution 21-08 withdrawn. So I believe this takes precedence
Does he have standing?
over a postpone.
Point of order, does he have standing to make that move?
He's a faculty senator.
I don't think that that's sufficient. I mean, that at least Dan was saying he didn't have standing to ask for withdrawal of the 2107.
All right,
He's not a
then
sponsor.
are you asking to withdraw or to? So I think there's 2 points. One is what we're currently under discussion is the motion to postpone to the February meeting. Yes?
Yes.
All right, as part of the discussion, Professor Lane is suggesting or is saying that it needs to, I believe what your goal is, what your point is, you cannot, you're right, you cannot withdraw if you're not, make a motion to withdraw if you're not the original sponsor, is to postpone it indefinitely.
But that is in the hierarchy of subsidiary motions, that is at the very bottom. It can't take precedence over the motion that's on the
And it
floor.
cannot take precedence over it. So the only way to do this would be to vote against postponing to the January meeting. February meeting, postponing to the February meeting. Yes. To consider a different motion, all right? Yes, Professor Clark.
So to the degree that this may influence your vote, it's our hope that a successful passage of resolution 2112 would mitigate the need for 2108 and we would hope to be able to withdraw it at the February meeting and forego a lot of this discussion should we be able to see positive passage of 2112. So it's possible that the motion may be withdrawn contingent on what may happen with some other resolutions, which is why we want to postpone the resolution initially.
All right, thank you for that clarification. All right, so again, the motion on the floor is to postpone until February. You must vote. So yes, it's postponed to February. No, it commences discussion immediately, or an additional motion can be made. All right, please vote. All right, and while we are looking at that, I should conclude, no, it doesn't. Okay, there will be a second reading of correcting LSU's misquotation of the FDA's vaccine letter, correct? All right, so while we are waiting on, all right, hang on, let's get that affirmation on this. In the meantime, if we can move, yeah, everybody get ready to read the resolution for the second reading, please. Has everyone voted? Anyone not been able to vote? You've not been able to vote, sir? All right, I do remind you that we have a hard stop at 5:30. We must be out of there by 5:30, and Ms. Nolan and I have some tables to move. So I would say that we need to have a hard stop at 5:20 to give us time to move the furniture. And well, I think in the remaining 10 minutes, we may as well get as much business accomplished as possible. All right. Okay, Ms. Knoll needs to just look at one thing. All right, the motion is to postpone the resolution until the February meeting. All right, question is on.
All right. The bigger. See it. Okay, now, this was first read in October 28th, and since then I had a lot of conversations with people, a lot of discussions, and so I made a few changes, and then Mandy sent out the version last Friday that I had at that time. Since then, or just today, I got a new amendment, suggestion from my colleagues, and then a further change. So I point out, I'll try to tell you what the changes are, and I guess you might have to approve consideration of this revised thing. And one, but anyway, here goes. Number one, whereas during August 23rd to 27th, 2021, the House Administration and the House regularly published statements such as the FDA has granted full approval to the Pfizer vaccine. And now, previously I listed several other statements like that here. Put them all in the footnotes. Whereas the above reference to quote the unquote Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine gives the impression that there is only one COVID-19 vaccine, when in reality there are two. Number one, Conformity COVID-19 vaccine mRNA, and two Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. Part three, whereas on August 23rd, FDA wrote two separate letters to Pfizer, one for each of these vaccines. The letter for Conformity approved Conformity, plus the letter for Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine merely reissued the emergency use authorization, EUA, which necessarily entails approval for that vaccine, and declared on pages 11 and 12 all descriptive printed matter, advertising, and promotional material relating to the use of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine clearly and conspicuously shall state that this product has not been approved for license by the FDA, but has been authorized for emergency use by the FDA under EUA to prevent coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, for use in individuals 12 years of age and older. And later, in that same letter, this vaccine is subject to an EUA and is not approved or licensed by the FDA. Whereas the above passage, this is a new part here that wasn't there in October. Whereas the above passages and a similar one of the Department of Health cannot be construed to mean that Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine has been approved for some age group, considering that Pfizer's November 19th fact sheet for healthcare providers administering vaccine declares, several quotes here, FDA has authorized the emergency use of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, which is not an FDA-approved vaccine, page 13. In order to mitigate the risks of using this unapproved product under EUA, it's called an unapproved product again. Use of unapproved Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine under this EUA is limited to blah blah blah. Page 14, and finally, the FDA has issued an EUA for the unapproved product, Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine,
And finally, ongoing safety evaluation of this unapproved vaccine. So the point is, over and over again, they say unapproved, unapproved, unapproved. Next, this was back to how it was in the original version of the resolution. Whereas the August 23rd, 2021 FDA letter on Pfizer and BioNTech also declared the licensed vaccine Comirnaty has the same formulation as the EUA authorized vaccine, BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, and the products can be used interchangeably to provide the vaccination series without safety or effectiveness concern. The products are legally distinct with certain differences that do not impact safety or effectiveness. And on page 5, although Comirnaty COVID-19 vaccine mRNA is approved to prevent COVID-19 in individuals 16 years of age and older, there is not sufficient approved vaccine available for distribution in this population in its entirety at the time of the issuance of this debate. Now, this part is new, more or less, whereas the CDC's page, vaccines.gov/search, can search any zip code for available Pfizer, BioNTech, J&J, and Moderna vaccines, all approved, but not for available Comirnaty, which isn't mentioned. And upon calling Pfizer at 800-438-1985, the Medical Information Center or something, one is told, quote, Pfizer has no information on when Comirnaty will be available in the US. I will say, I did ask them, where is it available? I didn't ask them when, but this is the only thing they would say. I asked them, what about the where, and they just kept repeating the states. No information on when it would be available. In particular, the only vaccine available at the LSU Student Union Theater is Pfizer, not Comirnaty, and the Louisiana Department of Health has no Comirnaty either. Whereas the only primary sources for determining whether FDA approved either of the Pfizer vaccines on August 23rd are FDA's 2 August 23rd letters to Pfizer, which are written documents, and as such are best evidence of their contents and speak for themselves, so that secondary sources may not be used to negate or vary the contents of those primary sources. I'll explain why that's important eventually. Now, number 8, whereas FDA's letters, this is one older, don't explain the certain differences between the 2 COVID vaccines and give no rationale for FDA's legal distinction between the 2 vaccines, and don't explain why FDA approved the vaccine that it says is not sufficiently available in the US, but it did not approve the vaccine that is available. And here's a new thing added by I added one new word as just today. It's not in the version that you got last Friday. Number 9, whereas a free university should be scrupulously accurate in its public statements. And the rationale for adding this, I can say, is to answer a question that I got several times during the last debate, and since then, why are you bringing this resolution? Well, this answers that question. Anyway, that's number 9. And then finally, now, President Madden suggested I change the therefore, and I'm proposing that we do that. It's your decision, of course, it's your resolution, not mine now, but take out the old therefore be it resolved and put in this newer therefore be it resolved, that the LSU Faculty Senate recognizes the FDA's 2 August 23rd, 2021 letters to Pfizer approved. That's in the spring. I think it should say, oh yeah, then they did approve Comirnaty COVID-19 vaccine mRNA, but not Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, and that the 2 vaccines are legally distinct, and that as of December 2021, Comirnaty is not readily available in the US. And here's a summary, just a 2x2 chart of the 2 different vaccines, one column for authorized, the other column for approved.
All right, this is already in discussion. However, given the constraints on time, thank you very much for reading through that and making it just under the line. Is there a motion to continue this discussion at our January meeting? All right, there's a motion to continue it and a second. Your name is for your. Alan Sykes is the second.
That was I apologize.
All right, we need a motion to move this to, so, do you want to do the first motion, so we need a second? Is there a second to, all right? Your name is?
What was that?
Lisa Foltz.
All right. All those in favor of continuing, moving the discussion of this resolution to the January meeting? Please vote affirmative. In a second. And then we will need a motion to adjourn. Do you want to take a vote by Qualtrics?
Qualtrics, please.
To adjourn?
No, the motion, Manny, that I,
Yes, yes, it's coming up on Qualtrics.
thanks.
Yes, okay. All right. No, hold on.
Delay further discussion.
All right, please vote. Affirmative, yes, to move it to the January meeting. No would be to continue the discussion, but friends, we have to be out of here. It is not to adopt the resolution, it is to table the resolution until, yes, we have to recreate these every time. It is to table the resolution, discussion of the resolution to the January meeting. To be clear, it is to table discussion of the resolution to the January meeting. Is an affirmative vote.
And a no vote is to do what?
Well, it's.
No vote is to continue discussion.
Continue discussion. But
Okay,
we'll
thanks.
go outside.
Because the motion reads differently, but okay.
Theta is observing that the motion reads differently, I think. she objects to
Yes,
that.
so it does say that, but it's because we have to recreate the Qualtrics every time. To be clear, the motion is to table the discussion of this resolution to the January meeting. Despite what the Qualtrics says, it is recorded correctly in the minutes.
It was changed.
And you just changed it.
So, to the silver or-
No, it's.
All right, everyone, please vote. Yes.
Is it possible to make a motion to enter all the new business into discussion without reading, suspend the rules and do that?
Well, all the new business will be moved to the January meeting. So what is your motion?
Just to suspend the rules and go away with the first reading of those three. So that we can do discussion meeting.
Okay, well, can we finish with this? Maybe we can make that motion at the beginning of the next meeting. All right. And I have, all right. The discussion of this resolution is tabled until the January meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? All right, can we have a voice vote? Yay means to adjourn. All right. Have a pleasant winter break.
No, we don't need to.
No, we got it. We got it. Thank you, though. Thank you. Thank you very much.